Now, a new analysis shows that the 6-ton iconic altar stone at the heart of Stonehenge originated from northeastern Scotland rather than southwest Wales.
For centuries, Stonehenge has stood in silence, guarding its secrets beneath open skies. But now, something unexpected has changed everything. Newly captured aerial footage has revealed strange patterns surrounding the ancient monument, details that scientists never noticed before. What looked like empty land is suddenly full of hidden shapes, buried structures, and signs of long-forgotten activity. Experts are stunned, and some admit this discovery forces them to rethink what Stonehenge really was and why it was built. What did the cameras see from above, and why is it leaving scientists speechless? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. The stones finally give up their secret. When scientists finally gathered the data they had been missing, the story of Stonehenge's sarsen stones began to sharpen into focus. What had long been a puzzle built on guesswork suddenly became something far more concrete. Chemistry, geology, and careful comparison replaced centuries of speculation. For the first time ever, researchers could trace where these enormous stones came from with real scientific accuracy. What they discovered was stunning. Of the 52 sarsen stones that still rise above Salisbury Plain today, 50 shared the exact same geochemical fingerprint. In simple terms, nearly all of Stonehenge's largest stones came from one single source. That level of consistency was astonishing. It was as if the builders deliberately chose one quarry and dismissed every other option. That source turned out to be West Woods, a thick stretch of woodland on the southern edge of the Marlborough Downs, about 15 miles north of Stonehenge. And that distance matters. Each sarsen weighed anywhere from 40,000 to 60,000 pounds, moving blocks that heavy across miles of uneven land without wheels, roads, or modern machines would challenge even today's technology. Yet this was done more than 4,000 years ago. West Woods wasn't picked by chance. According to findings from University College London, the sarsens found there were unusually large, consistent in shape, and exceptionally strong. These were ideal stones for creating the massive trilithons that define Stonehenge's iconic outline. For Neolithic builders, West Woods offered exactly what they needed. Still, the reality is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Archaeologists believe moving just one sarsen would have required hundreds of people working together. Logs may have been used as rollers, or stones dragged on wooden sledges over prepared paths. Some experts think parts of the journey may have involved waterways, though this idea remains debated. However it was done, the effort would have been enormous. Then came another twist. Not all the stones matched. While 50 sarsens clearly traced back to West Woods, 2 did not. Their chemical makeup stood out, unmistakably different. To this day, their exact origin remains unknown. Some researchers think they came from smaller scattered sarsen boulders closer to Stonehenge. Others believe they point to a quarry that has yet to be found, or one that no longer exists. That detail raises an eerie question. Why gather almost every stone from one distant source, only to break the pattern with 2 exceptions? The choice of West Woods also hints at something deeper. Closer sarsen sources existed, yet they were ignored. This suggests the site may have held special meaning, cultural, spiritual, or symbolic. Perhaps the stones were believed to carry power. Perhaps the land itself was sacred. Archaeologists admit we may never know for sure, but the decision was clearly intentional. This discovery forces a major rethink of Neolithic society. Transporting stones weighing 20 to 30 tons over such distances required careful planning, leadership, and collective effort. It points to a level of organization far beyond what was once assumed, a society capable of massive projects that united people across wide regions. Today, West Woods is a quiet forest filled with walking paths and wildlife. But seen through the lens of this discovery, it becomes something else entirely. From these peaceful clearings came the stones that would form one of the most mysterious monuments on Earth. Here, massive blocks were cut, hauled, and raised into place, shaping a circle that has haunted human imagination for thousands of years. After centuries of debate, the stones finally spoke. And with that confirmation, a crucial chapter in Stonehenge's story was finally written. But what led scientists to discover this breakthrough? Keep watching to find out. The missing stone that changed everything. The breakthrough that finally brought scientists closer to answering Stonehenge's most haunting question didn't come from a fresh dig. Instead, it came from something far more unexpected, a small stone core that had been missing for decades. Back in 1958, during routine restoration work at Stonehenge, engineers were called in to stabilize one of the towering uprights known as Stone 58. A crack had formed, and to strengthen it, workers drilled 3 narrow holes through the stone and inserted metal rods. During that process, a cylindrical piece of rock was removed. One of the technicians on the job, a man named Robert Phillips, was allowed to keep the stone core as a memento. It didn't look important. About the length of a walking stick, smooth and plain, it seemed insignificant compared to the massive stones surrounding it. No one at the time realized what it would one day represent. Years later, Robert moved to the United States, and the stone traveled with him. For more than half a century, it quietly followed him from home to home, office to office, a forgotten souvenir from a job long finished in England. While it sat unnoticed, scholars back at Stonehenge continued to argue and speculate. They debated where the stones came from and how they were moved, but without physical samples to test, much of the discussion remained educated guesswork. Then, in 2018, just before his 90th birthday, Robert made a decision that would change everything. He contacted English Heritage, the organization responsible for Stonehenge, and arranged to return the stone core to the United Kingdom. For archaeologists, it felt like a message from the past finally arriving. The excitement was immediate. The core was a rare gift, an untouched piece of Stonehenge's sarsen stone, protected from centuries of weathering. Even more importantly, it could be studied without harming the monument itself. Normally, taking samples from Stonehenge is strictly forbidden, making this one artifact incredibly valuable. With the core in hand, scientists began a careful series of modern tests. Using tools like X-ray fluorescence and mass spectrometry, they measured the stone's exact chemical makeup. Elements such as silicon, aluminum, iron, and tiny trace minerals were analyzed in extreme detail. This level of precision had never been possible before. Researchers at University College London, who led much of the study, emphasized how cautious the process was. Every step was documented. Every measurement was checked and rechecked. The goal wasn't just to study the core, but to create a chemical fingerprint so exact it could be matched against sarsen stone sources across southern England. At the same time, scientists used non-invasive technology on the stones still standing at Stonehenge. Portable X-ray devices allowed them to scan each megalith's surface without causing damage. Stone by stone, under the unpredictable skies of Wiltshire, they built a chemical map of the entire monument. What the data began to show was surprising. The sarsen stones weren't as varied as many had assumed. Instead, most shared an almost identical chemical signature. This pointed to a single source, one quarry that supplied the majority of the stones. The implication was staggering. It suggested that Stonehenge's builders deliberately chose one location, gathered their stones there, and transported them together in a massive, coordinated effort. The idea was thrilling, but also unsettling. Why take such enormous risks and effort when closer stones may have existed? What made this source so important? The returned stone core, paired with the chemical mapping of the monument, finally gave scientists a real path forward. By comparing Stonehenge's unique geochemical fingerprint with known sarsen deposits across England, researchers believed they were closer than ever to uncovering the true origin of the stones and the intentions of the people who raised them. What exactly could be the origin of the Stonehenge stones? Let's find out. The giants that refused to explain themselves. For centuries, the stones of Stonehenge have stood firm against the winds of Salisbury Plain, guarding secrets that still unsettle us today. Older than the pyramids of Giza, this iconic monument has baffled historians, archaeologists, and curious minds alike. Who built it? Why was it built? And perhaps most puzzling of all, where did its enormous stones come from? These questions have never been minor academic debates. They strike at the heart of what we believe about the people who lived on these islands thousands of years ago. At first glance, Stonehenge can look like nothing more than a ring of weathered rocks. But that appearance is deceiving. The monument is a highly sophisticated structure, carefully aligned with celestial events such as the summer solstice sunrise and the winter solstice sunset. Its placement alone reveals planning, precision, and a deep understanding of the sky. Yet beyond its architecture and astronomy, the greatest mystery lies within the stones themselves. Archaeologists have long known that Stonehenge is built from two different types of rock. The smaller stones, known as bluestones, have been traced to the Preseli Hills in Wales, more than 140 miles away. Even that discovery was astonishing, suggesting Neolithic people somehow moved multi-ton stones across rivers, hills, and forests without wheels or draft animals. But as remarkable as the bluestone journey is, it was never the biggest mystery. That distinction belongs to the massive sarsen stones. The sarsens are the true giants of Stonehenge. Some stand nearly 30 feet tall and weigh between 20 and 30 tons each. They form the familiar circle and inner horseshoe that define the monument's shape. Unlike the bluestones, which vary in size and placement, the sarsens are uniform, towering, and commanding. They are the backbone of Stonehenge, the stones that give it its unforgettable silhouette against the English sky. For hundreds of years, no one could say for certain where these giants came from. Some believed they were dragged from nearby land on Salisbury Plain. Others argued their size and durability pointed to a much more distant source. Theories placed their origins in the Marlborough Downs, roughly 20 miles north, or in quarries that may no longer exist. Every explanation sounded possible, yet none came with proof strong enough to end the debate. This uncertainty allowed folklore to flourish alongside science. Medieval writers claimed the wizard Merlin had magically transported the stones. Later legends spoke of giants carrying them across the land. Others whispered that the stones had always been there, remnants of a forgotten geological event, or even a gift from the gods. Scholars dismissed these stories, but the real answer remained frustratingly out of reach. The nature of sarsen stone only made things harder. Sarsen is a hard form of sandstone scattered across southern England, often found as isolated boulders left behind by ancient erosion. In theory, this meant the stones could have come from many locations. In practice, that wide distribution made it nearly impossible to identify a single source. Without direct evidence, archaeologists were left with educated guesses. The sheer scale of the task deepened the mystery even further. Imagine people living thousands of years ago deciding to move stones as heavy as a modern lorry, then arranging them into a precise and lasting structure, without wheels, iron tools, or animals to pull the load. The idea seems almost impossible, and yet Stonehenge stands. By the late 20th century, the origin of the sarsen stones had become one of Stonehenge's greatest unsolved riddles. Archaeologists openly admitted they didn't know the answer. Some favored the Marlborough Downs. Others warned that the truth might involve multiple sources. Insiders spoke of frustration. Without solid scientific evidence, speculation filled the gap. That uncertainty kept the mystery alive. Scholars debated in journals. Tour guides spun stories for visitors. The public imagined lost civilizations and supernatural forces at work. For centuries, the sarsens of Stonehenge were not just massive in size, but massive in mystery. They embodied everything we didn't yet understand about our ancestors: their strength, their ambition, their ingenuity, and their secrets. But as time went on, it became clear that those secrets would not remain hidden forever. But what secrets could Stonehenge have been hiding? Stay tuned to find out. When Stonehenge spoke and sang. Stonehenge may have been more than a monument aligned to the sun and the changing seasons. According to new research, it may also have been built to control sound in ways that still surprise scientists today. A study led by acoustics engineers at the University of Salford suggests the ancient stone circle was carefully shaped to amplify voices and music, creating an enclosed sound world that felt powerful to those inside and strangely muted to everyone else. To explore this idea, the research team built a detailed 1:12 scale replica they nicknamed Minihenge. Using high-resolution laser scans provided by Historic England, they recreated the monument exactly as it likely stood around 2500 BCE. Every curve, height, and gap was copied with extreme care. Stones that are missing today were digitally restored and placed where evidence suggests they once stood, bringing the total to 157 stones. Each stone in the model was 3D printed and treated to mimic the acoustic behavior of real sarsen rock. The result was the most accurate sound-based reconstruction of Stonehenge ever created. The testing took place inside the university's specialized acoustic chamber. Instead of Neolithic voices or drums, researchers used speakers and microphones. Because the model was smaller, all sounds had to be played at 12 times their normal frequency, pushing them into the ultrasonic range. This adjustment allowed the scientists to accurately replicate how sound would behave in the full-sized monument. What they found was remarkable. Inside the stone circle, voices carried with surprising clarity. The stones amplified sound by more than 4 decibels, yet avoided creating harsh echoes. At the same time, the arrangement blocked much of the noise from outside. Music or speech played at the center could be heard clearly within the inner ring, but barely at all beyond it. This suggests that ceremonies held at Stonehenge may have been designed for a select group standing inside the circle. Those outside could see what was happening, but not fully hear it. The monument may have been visually grand for the many, but acoustically intimate for the few. The team also tested different stone arrangements, reflecting archaeological evidence that Stonehenge was altered several times over centuries. Surprisingly, these changes had almost no noticeable effect on how sound behaved. To the human ear, the acoustics would have felt largely the same. This implies that while sound mattered, it probably wasn't the main reason behind the monument's precise layout. Most experts still believe astronomical alignment, tracking the sun, moon, and seasons, was the primary purpose. Even so, Stonehenge's sound qualities remain deeply intriguing. Musicologist Rupert Till, who has studied the site's acoustics, notes that Stonehenge hums when the wind blows hard. Some smaller stones even produce a ringing tone when struck, similar to a metal gong. In 2014, Trevor Cox suggested these stones may have been used as percussion instruments during rituals. That idea gained support in 2013, when researchers from the Royal College of Art successfully played the ringing stones like a giant stone xylophone. Their eerie music study, published in Time and Mind, concluded that these effects were likely stronger in ancient times, before modern concrete reinforcements dampened the stone's natural vibrations. If so, Stonehenge was not just a place to watch the sky. It was a space where stone and sound worked together, a stage for ceremony, rhythm, and resonance. And that raises an even bigger question. Could the origins of Stonehenge be tied to something more mystical than we ever imagined? Let's find out. When Stonehenge belonged to wizards and giants. Long before scientists aimed lasers at Stonehenge or studied its stones under microscopes, the monument lived in the world of legend. For centuries, its story was told not through data, but through myth. And in those tales, one name stood above all others: Merlin, the powerful wizard of King Arthur's court, master of magic, dragons, and the hidden forces of nature. According to medieval lore, Stonehenge was not built by human hands at all. It was raised through magic. The story begins in the 5th century, after a brutal massacre of British nobles by invading Saxons. King Aurelianus Ambrosius, uncle to the future King Arthur, wanted to honor the fallen with a monument unlike any other. Ordinary stone wasn't enough. He wanted something eternal, something filled with power. Merlin claimed to know just the place. In Ireland, he said, stood a ring of massive stones known as the Giant's Ring. Legend held that these stones had been brought from Africa by giants and placed in Ireland for their healing powers. Convinced, King Aurelianus sent an army to seize them. The soldiers won the battle, but when they tried to move the stones, they failed. The rocks were simply too heavy. That's when Merlin stepped forward. With a wave of magic, he lifted the stones into the air, carried them across the sea, and set them down on Salisbury Plain. There, he arranged them into the sacred circle that became Stonehenge. This dramatic tale first appeared in Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century Historia Regum Britanniae, a mix of folklore, national pride, and poetic imagination. Yet, for hundreds of years, many people believed it was true. Giants, wizards, or supernatural forces felt like the only explanation for how such massive stones could have been moved without modern tools. The Merlin legend was just one of many. Some believed Stonehenge marked the burial place of King Aurelianus and Uther Pendragon, father of King Arthur. Others claimed it predated the biblical flood, linking it to a lost civilization or even Atlantis. Even the Romans believed it was connected to ancient Druids. To medieval minds, the monument's precision and scale seemed far beyond ordinary human ability. These myths weren't just about how Stonehenge was built, but why it existed at all. Magic felt like the only answer that made sense. Today, we know Merlin's role is pure legend. And yet, Stonehenge still holds a powerful spiritual pull. Modern Druids and pagan groups continue to gather there during the summer and winter solstices, honoring the same solar moments marked thousands of years ago. In an unexpected way, they're closer to the truth than the legends ever were. Not magic, but astronomy. The stone's alignment with the rising solstice sun reveals a deep understanding of the sky. The real story of Stonehenge isn't about sorcery or giants. It's about generations of people working together over centuries to build a monument that fused ritual, mystery, and cosmic meaning. And beyond the myths and magic, another celestial clue still waits to be uncovered. Let's find out what it is. The stone circle that kept time. With the question of where Stonehenge's stones came from finally answered, a deeper mystery took center stage. Why this exact layout? Why circles and horseshoes? Why did the stones line up in ways that felt both mathematical and mystical? The answer, according to Professor Timothy Darville of Bournemouth University, was nothing short of astonishing. Stonehenge, he argued, was not just a monument, it was a calendar. Darville's theory sent shockwaves through archaeology because it reframed the entire structure as a timekeeping device of remarkable sophistication. The key lay in the Sarsen circle itself, the great outer ring made up of 30 massive upright stones, each topped with a lintel to form a continuous loop. According to Darville, this ring represented a Neolithic month, 30 stones for 30 days, divided into 3 weeks of 10 days each. The arrangement was not symbolic or decorative. It was deliberate, carefully designed to mirror the movement of the sun. 12 complete cycles of this stone month created a 360-day year. But the builders knew the solar year was longer, and this is where Stonehenge reveals its deeper intelligence. At the center of the monument stand 5 towering trilithons, arranged in a horseshoe shape and set apart from the outer ring. Darville proposed that these represented the 5 extra days needed to complete the solar year. These days were likely special, set aside for major gatherings, rituals, or festivals marking the turning points between seasons. Yet even this wasn't enough to keep the calendar perfectly aligned. At the outer edge of the henge sit 4 station stones, placed in a rectangular pattern that seems out of place compared to the monument's graceful curves. Their purpose, Darville argued, was to solve the final problem. Through precise astronomical alignment, these stones allowed the calendar to account for a leap day every 4 years, keeping the stone calendar in sync with the true solar cycle. In effect, Stonehenge encoded a leap year system, one of astonishing accuracy, thousands of years before such concepts appeared in the Western world. Built between roughly 2620 and 2480 BCE, Stonehenge has barely shifted since. Its immense stones held their alignments through centuries of storms, conflict, and change. This was not merely a temple or a burial site. It was a fusion of astronomy, authority, and belief. In a world without writing, Stonehenge became time made solid. It guided planting and harvest, shaped rituals, and anchored society to the rhythms of the sky. It was a calendar carved into stone, a lasting testament to a civilization determined to understand the heavens and bind the seasons forever to the earth. So, how did the world react to the discovery of Stonehenge? Let's find out. A discovery that shook more than science. The revelation about where Stonehenge's massive Sarsen stones came from sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. But the impact didn't stop with scientists. Once the findings were made public, the debate spilled far beyond academic circles. Historians, environmentalists, and even spiritual communities all weighed in, each viewing the discovery through their own lens. Almost overnight, the question of what Stonehenge truly meant and why ancient builders went to such extreme lengths to construct it felt freshly alive again. Major museums and research institutions across Europe and North America reacted quickly. Exhibits that had long relied on theories and educated guesses suddenly found themselves under pressure to update their narratives. Some museums welcomed the change, seeing it as a rare moment when a mystery became clearer through solid evidence. Others struggled with the idea that a piece of Stonehenge's long-held mystery had been replaced with certainty. For many visitors, those unanswered questions had been part of the monument's magic. Within archaeology itself, the response was more measured. While most researchers accepted the geochemical findings as a major breakthrough, some urged caution. Identifying the source of the stones did not explain everything. It didn't fully answer why Stonehenge was built, what it was used for, or why that specific quarry mattered so much. Several scholars warned that the discovery was being treated as a final answer when, in reality, it opened up even more questions about symbolism, belief systems, and the cultural meaning of the surrounding landscape. Outside academia, spiritual groups who still gather at Stonehenge for solstices and rituals had strong reactions of their own. To them, Stonehenge is not just an ancient structure, but a living sacred place. Some welcomed the findings, believing that the link to local geology supported the idea that the builders were deeply connected to the land's natural energy. Others felt uneasy, worried that scientific explanations were slowly stripping away the mystery of a site they hold sacred. According to reports, certain Druidic groups publicly stressed that Stonehenge should not be reduced to a scientific case study, but respected as part of humanity's spiritual story. Unexpectedly, the discovery also touched off political and environmental debates. As a UNESCO World Heritage Site, any new understanding of Stonehenge affects preservation strategies, funding decisions, and tourism planning. Some commentators argued that confirming the stone's origin could lead to increased protection for other nearby landscapes with similar geology. Local tourism officials, particularly in Wiltshire, welcomed the attention, expecting a surge in visitors drawn by the dramatic new findings. At the same time, conservationists raised concerns about how to protect the monument from the strain of increased foot traffic. For the general public, reactions were wide-ranging. Some people speculated about lost advanced civilizations or vast prehistoric networks of sacred sites. Others saw the discovery as proof of something simpler but no less powerful: human cooperation on an extraordinary scale. Ordinary people, working together with skill, determination, and shared purpose, achieved something that still amazes us today. In the end, the aftermath of the revelation was about more than pinpointing a location on a map. It was about meaning. For some, the discovery was a triumph of modern science, showing how new technology can unlock ancient secrets. For others, it was unsettling because the more we uncover about Stonehenge, the clearer it becomes how much remains unknown. What has Stonehenge faced over the years? Keep watching to find out. Stonehenge versus humanity. Stonehenge has faced a surprising and relentless enemy over the centuries: humans themselves. Long before the monument became a protected heritage site, it was slowly dismantled, piece by piece. Up until the 17th century, stones vanished from the site, taken away to be reused in building projects. By the 19th century, visitors were chipping off small fragments with chisels, eager to carry home a piece of history as a personal souvenir. In the 1970s, the annual Free Festival brought large crowds to the site. For the first few years, the gatherings caused little harm, but by 1978, authorities were forced to fence off the area to protect the stones. Things only escalated in the 1980s and 1990s. Vandalism became more frequent and brazen. One infamous 1984 incident saw the stones defaced with bright purple spray paint. In response, barriers were reinforced, exclusion zones were extended for miles, and hundreds of police officers were deployed to safeguard the monument. For a time, the government even closed Stonehenge entirely, though public outcry forced it to reopen. Acts of damage continued in more unexpected ways. In 2008, two men used a hammer and screwdriver to chip a piece of the heelstone, not larger than a 10-pence coin, the first recorded incident of its kind in decades. Controversy flared again in 2020 when the British Transport Minister approved a long-debated plan to build a tunnel near the site. Critics called it state-sponsored vandalism, and historian Tom Holland described the project as an unbelievable destruction of the landscape. Despite the backlash, the courts ultimately allowed the tunnel to proceed. Even peaceful protests have put the monument at risk. On June 19, 2024, climate activists from Just Stop Oil sprayed 3 standing stones with orange cornflower paint. English Heritage called the act extremely upsetting and launched an investigation. Fortunately, the powder was later removed without leaving any visible damage. But the incident highlighted just how vulnerable even the most iconic monuments can be. Through centuries of casual theft, deliberate vandalism, and modern controversy, Stonehenge has endured. Yet, its survival is not just a testament to ancient engineering. It is a constant reminder of the delicate balance between human fascination and human destruction. So, what are your thoughts about Stonehenge and how scientists were left completely speechless? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you for joining us as we uncovered the mysteries, legends, and science behind Stonehenge. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next fascinating story. And while you're here, click on the video on your screen to keep exploring more incredible discoveries from history and beyond.